and welcome to Cult Mountain. I'm Britt, and today we're in store with Webbo, who is an artist. Hi, thanks for joining us.
Hello, you alright?
Can you tell me where you're from?
I'm from Somerset originally, that's where I grew up. I've lived in London for the past 10 years though. I came up here for study at university and just stuck around really. Yeah.
And what did you study?
I studied mixed media fine art at University of Westminster. Yeah, did a bit of everything there really. Mainly painting, but I kind of touched on sculpture and 3D work as well. But I didn't really get into it then quite as much as I did over the past couple of years when I started making all this sort of stuff. But yeah, I kind of touched on it then. Yeah.
So was it a good sort of grounding for your...
Yeah, it's like at the time you just kind of, you know, you're just there because you enjoy it and you kind of moan about it thinking, I don't get it. But then when you leave a couple of years later, looking back, you kind of think, yeah, actually it was kind of quite valuable.
You could have,
but it's just indifferent. You don't, you know, you kind of go to uni expecting it to be whatever, but it isn't really like that. But then it kind of turns out to be just as valuable for completely different reasons. It's about the people you meet, I suppose, and it just opens doors and forces you to really think about what you're doing rather than just doing it like think about it. You know, you're getting constantly challenged by the tutors and stuff like that. So yeah, it's good practice, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Did it help sort of launch you into the art world with contacts and things like that, or just
no, not really.
Your style?
Not really. It just, well, you know, make a lot of good friends and all that, but mainly it just, you know, puts you in the mindset of, you know, to really push yourself that bit further. You know, you're just making artwork for yourself. You can just do whatever, and no one tells you otherwise. But I think, you know, it's important and useful because it just makes you a bit more disciplined, I suppose. Yeah.
And you have a really distinctive style that I haven't seen any other artists doing what you're doing at the moment. How did your style develop? Have you always sort of been doing this 3D thing, or is this quite recent?
It's quite recent, really. I mean, I was doing painting for years, but I was just kind of having like niggling ideas in my head that just wouldn't go away, and I suppose eventually I just thought, well, now I'll give up with the painting and just start making 3D stuff. But really it's only when I really had the studio and had the space and had the materials and then I could actually start making all this sort of stuff. So it was ideas that were there for a long time.
Yeah. And
really was something I really wanted to get into for a long time, but it was only about two or 3 years ago that I started making 3D stuff properly. Yeah.
And where do you get most of your materials from? There's all kinds of things that you put together.
This is a deer skull, but the bottom bit is a pig jaw, and I've added extra teeth to it. I think the pig came from the butcher's, and a lot of it's a lot of balsa wood, foam board, a lot of things from the pound shop and charity shops and tat and.
Are you always collecting little
always
bits and
collecting
pieces
things, yeah.
In case you might need them, and then you see them.
It's just all the little bits, like the little electrical looking bits and rockets and stuff. You just got to be constantly buying them and collecting them. You know, you just get the eye for it. You notice what things are going to be useful, and you just start buying a toy car or something just because it's got one little bit on it that you know you might need. And yeah, I'll spend a fortune in the pound shops, but it's worth it. Yeah.
And there does seem to sort of be an underlying war and destruction theme to your work. I'm not sure if
definitely. Yeah, I suppose it's to go back to being a kid. Really, it's just it's like a fascination of kind of like war games and like toys and like science fiction and fantasy and all that sort of thing. Really, it's just kind of come back. Really, I just kind of went back to what I was into when I was a kid and just started just making stuff just for the fun of it. Really. And it just kind of, ideas kind of snowballed and, yeah.
So a lot of your work is for, I mean, you need to be inspired, obviously. Do you find your inspiration never runs dry, or do you have lots of ideas? Are you always creating, or do you have dry patches?
I suppose everyone has dry patches. I've always got plenty of ideas. It's just, you know, sometimes you have dry patches because you need to just get out and, you know, have a bit of a life for a little bit, which a lot of artists kind of forget. But there's always ideas, always inspiration, just having the time to do them all, really. It's just knowing which ones you should do and which ones should just
not do.
Yeah, yeah.
And
yeah.
do you find there's a difference between starting new work and finishing it? Is there?
Starting it's the fun bit. You know, I enjoy starting work, start and stop sculptures. The first initial, the initial bit is always the fun bit, and then you have a bit of a battle with it. It's some things just lying around my studio for months and months, and look at them and thinking, I don't know what to do with it. I hate it. I love it. What do I do? And you ignore it for weeks, and then do a bit more, and you don't know what you're doing. And eventually one day it'll all just click, and I know what I'm doing with it now. And I'm always working on several things at once, always, because then you can just move
do little bits.
you just move between them, and the lessons you learn from one you can apply to another, and it just makes it a lot easier working on several things at once. Yeah.
And what have you found are the challenges of being an artist in London?
I would say just everyday survival, but also just finding a space for yourself within the art world. Making artwork that actually kind of stands out, and because there's so many other artists, so many really talented artists, there's so much stuff going on that it's really just about finding where you fit within it all. I think that was definitely the most challenging part for me.
Yeah.
Finding something that I could do which people would notice.
And do you think as well, nowadays you sort of can't just be an artist, you need to be a real multitasker, you need to do PR and keep on with your emails and that kind of, does that sort of bring you down, or do you have to be really multi-skilled?
You've really got to, it's really important. I don't spend as much time doing all that as I should, but it's very important, and I think to be an artist you've got to be multi-skilled anyway, really. I think that's the same for any artist. There's always you can't just do one thing. You've got to be able to dip between different mediums, and it takes a lot of different skills, and definitely.
Yeah. And how important is it to you to have a creative outlet in your life?
Very important, really. But I've always had one. I've never not had one, so I don't know. Maybe I could try going without one for a little bit and just see what happens, but
starve yourself.
Go. But I don't know. It's just a compulsion, so it's hard to. I don't know. It's weird. I'd like to know what I would have ended up like if I hadn't been lucky enough to be able to pursue my artwork. I'd probably be a completely different person. I don't know. It's weird question, really. It's just we just take it for granted, don't we, that we can spend time and energy making artwork, but I suppose it's a real luxury.
I guess so. I guess it is.
Yeah.
What is your sort of inspiration and creativity with your pieces?
Do
they all sort of have the same underlying theme?
Yeah, I suppose they're all part of the same world, It's like I kind of make the miniatures, and I convert them, and I make these vehicles, and then I make buildings and landscapes, and make all this stuff. And even though I wasn't aware, maybe not been completely aware of it when I started making them, but they're all part of the same world. They all fit in together into the same world, And I suppose it is just it is just a different reality. I don't know. I don't know. Cut that bit. No, I don't know. It's all definitely part of the same world, the same universe, and
you made a series of these orc bell jar collection, didn't you? Yeah.
Well, they were orcs I made anyway. I had loads of them that I'd made, and I was using them for animation, which I'm making with a friend of mine, and I just thought about how to try and sell them really and turn them into a sellable object. And then a friend of mine gave me 6 of those bell jars, and it's ideal then, you know, people don't really want to, you know, it's a bit fragile and insignificant, something that small, isn't it? But you put it in a jar and then it's easier to look after, and it instantly becomes more of an object, you know.
Yeah.
Yeah, definitely.
And they are so beautifully crafted. Do you cast?
No, I just buy toys really and just convert them and modify them. Just add my own bits, sculpt onto them, and I just kind of change what's already there, you know.
Yeah.
And, I mean, I'm kind of getting better at doing my own sculpture and converting them, but a lot, to start with, it was very much just buying toys and then just converting them as much as I could. But now I'm getting better. It becomes more about my sculpture.
The whole piece together.
Yeah.
And where can we find your artwork?
It's available at Colt Mountain, and there'll be prints and more things available there for sale, and on the website as well.
Yeah. Great.
Yeah.
And what are your plans for the future? Do you have any exhibitions coming up? Or?
It's a few things in the pipeline. Yeah. A big exhibition we're doing of Artcore International, a charity that I'm involved in, doing an exhibition at the end of May. That'll all be fully advertised and then you can all come along.
That's Artcore.
Artcore International, yeah. It's going to be at Elephant and Castle, a really big show. Lots of different artists involved.
Okay.
So that's the next big thing I think that I'm going to be making artwork for and working towards. A few other things in the pipeline as well. I'm working with Skate Dog Animation, making a stop frame animated film. I've done 3 minutes so far, and hopefully in a couple of weeks we're going to start filming again and do another couple of minutes. And I think it might be used for a music video, but I want to try and do a few different edits of it.
It's great that your art sort of goes from paintings to sculptures to animation.
Yeah, it's working with other people. I always find I do the best work when I'm collaborating with other people.
Brainstorming, getting different ideas from people.
Animators or other sculptors or photographers. It always, working with other artists is definitely one of the most important parts of my practice, I think, or anybody's practice. I think it's very important to be able to do that. I think, really work with other people. Certainly, as well, I produce all my best work.
Well, that's great. Thank you so much for coming down to Coventry.
Okay.
And we hope to see more of your work in the future.
Okay, thank you.
Thanks so much for tuning in, and tune in next time when we have another artist to install.